Welcome to the Newy Tech Jobs Update for March 2020. I don't think the results are going to be surprising to anyone. Right now we're in the middle of COVID-19. We're in isolation. I'm recording this from home as opposed to our little studio inside Inks there. Like most companies, recruitment has been affected. But I've been pleasantly surprised by the Newcastle tech community and the Newcastle tech market. So jobs numbers have been falling across the board. Obviously, a lot of, hesitation or just uncertainty with the companies that have pulled roles, that just uncertain about what that future is. So I guess instead of putting somebody on and then having to let them go in a couple of weeks/months, there are companies that are pulling back from hiring right now or putting roles on pause. So that's definitely happening across the board. There's no point hiding from that. There are other companies though that are pushing ahead and starting to hire remotely. So doing interviews remotely, either via Zoom, Hangouts, some still via Skype, but less and less via Skype these days. And starting to figure out what that onboarding process could look like remotely. So that's probably the bigger challenge out of the two, is onboarding remotely as opposed to interviewing remotely. Interviewing, I think most people are pretty comfortable with video interviews and things like that now. But with Zoom and Teams out there, I think there are companies that are starting to sort of navigate that onboarding process as well. So props to anyone that's going through that at the moment and, changing their processes to make that a more smooth and as fluid a process as possible. So yeah, props to any companies that are currently navigating those challenges and still pushing forward with hiring. Before I get started in the numbers, just a quick shout out to anyone that has been affected by COVID-19. With the loss of job, reduced hours, harder times financially, or even worse from a health perspective. I just want to share my well wishes. I hope things turn around for you or your loved ones that might have been affected. So that's obviously more important than the amount of jobs that are being posted. So I think as a community, one of the best things that we've seen through COVID is that more community spirit being shared. Especially with the buy local type movement that started with trying to help support small businesses. So I think that's the biggest positive we've seen. So hopefully as a community we can come together and support those that are going through more difficult times. So that's just my well wishes. It doesn't mean a great deal, I know, but I hope you and your loved ones get through these times. On to the jobs. So in March, we had 127 jobs posted in the Newcastle tech scene, which is a smaller number than the previous month and previous years, but not dramatic. Not as dramatic as we might have thought. That might really hit home in April. So it was down 35% month on month, so down 35% on February, and down 21% year on year. So relatively big fall, not unexpected. I think we all knew that companies would start to sort of hold off on advertising new jobs and just sort of sit and wait and see how this plays out for a little while. The fall is probably not as big as I expected, but maybe April is where we really start to feel that hit. Before companies, maybe in March, April, June, or March, June, July, understand that working from home is not now a BAU and we can hire and push forward for business. So I expect April to be down, May probably be down again. Maybe we'll see a bit of a resurgence around that June, July time. So let's see how it plays out. For the type of jobs being advertised, 80% of the roles were permanent and 20% in the temp and contracting space. I think that shows that if companies are going to hire, they're looking for those long-term hires. We're not going to onboard somebody now remotely for a short-term contract. What we're really going to do, if we're going to push forward with a role, it's one of those more important business-critical roles. So we will hire those people in a permanent fashion. So 80% of the roles hired permanently. That is a pretty significant increase on the months gone by. So not overly surprising again. I think businesses that are pushing forward with hiring right now understand the real needs for those roles to the business going forward. So they're making sure that they hire those people on a permanent fashion. Who's actually advertising? Predominantly recruiters, actually. It's been a bit of a flip from February. So February, 35% of the roles were advertised by recruiters. And then last month, there was 60% of the roles being advertised by recruiters. couple of different factors that could come into that. Obviously, HR teams are under the pump at the moment with figuring out how people, or different policies for people working from home and working remotely, and then also looking after mental health of staff and making sure that people can push through this, as well as, unfortunately, there are layoffs and staff cuts and reduced hours being enforced across the board. This is happening in multiple different companies at the moment. So HR, extremely busy time to be in HR. If there is something that they can outsource, it's predominantly recruitment. So there are more recruiters advertising at the moment than private advertisers. I would just say that's probably, as a mix of some really hard to fill roles, so recruiters getting engaged, and then also just the sheer workload for HR at the moment is going to be extremely difficult. And so props to anyone in HR. Hopefully it gets a little bit easier for you. The types of roles being advertised, it's probably not too dissimilar to in the past. Business and systems analysts, that and developers, software developers are number 1 and 2, followed by really closely by tech support. So tech support obviously really important at the moment, with a lot of teams going remote, making sure that you've got the right things set up for people to be able to access what they need to online, being able to work with the different systems from home. Tech support's invaluable through these periods. Business and systems analysts, I guess, a lot of projects are still got to go push forward. I guess there's probably those business critical roles we talked about before, and software developers, I would say, fall into that as well. Companies that are investing in software development, it's probably core to what their actual business is doing and making sure the business can continue to operate going forward. So those are the 3 most popular roles being advertised at the moment. Not too dissimilar to anything that's happened in the past. Those 3 tend to be at least within the top 5, month in, month out. So all in all, definite fall month on month, but I have been pleasantly surprised by the amount of companies still hiring in Newcastle. I would say the Newcastle tech scene, if this sort of COVID hit 4 or 5 years ago, we would have been in a really dire straits, or a really bear market, I guess, from a jobs perspective, and where the opportunities are for candidates out there. But because there are so many companies investing in technology now, there are still opportunities for people. So I did think it's a positive sign for our community and how far we've grown in the past 4 or 5 years. So that is a positive sign, and hopefully we do see an uptick as business continue to push forward and understand that working from home might be our BAU for 6 months plus, and that's what it might be looking like at the moment. So if anyone's looking for some advice around how to onboard or how to video interview or interview remotely, feel free to reach out. We've found a couple of articles that are written by people that know more about it than what we do, and we'll happily share those with anyone. So until next month, where I'll share the April update. I don't think it'll be an overly positive story again, but we're continuing to push through it. I think companies are still investing in hiring, which is a really good sign for the Newcastle tech scene. So we'll share that update then. I hope everyone stays safe more than anything. I hope people are looking after their mental health, working from home, making sure they get a little bit of time to get away from the computer and get away from day in, day out work, and look after themselves and their families. I'll reach out to you again next month with the next monthly jobs update. So stay safe. I hope everyone gets through this as best as we possibly can. Cheers.